Mythcon V, brought to you by the awesome people at Mythicist Milwaukee. They had a segment titled, How Has the Political Climate Divided the Atheist Community? Here's how it went down.
First up on stage, we have David Smalley, Mr. Beautiful Blue Eyes himself. Next up, we have Vadim Newquist, comedian, political pop culture commentator, and humble servant to YouTube's creationist cat. Jacqueline Glenn is an incredibly talented singer, actress, and YouTube content creator with over 700,000 followers. Now please welcome to the stage a famously rugged Canadian who's made a name for himself as an atheist YouTuber, Greg Fleur, better known as Armored Skeptic. And finally moderating our lovely discussion will be the distinguished Stephen Knight, a blogger and host of the award-winning Godless Spell Checker podcast.
First question, then, really for you, David, is are we off to a false start with the term atheist community? Is there even such a thing? If so, what does it look like? Who's the mayor? What's the membership card?
Yeah, I think the reason there's so much debate around that is because there are multiple communities. I think the online community is different, and even within the online community, there are certain groups that you pay attention to, certain ones you don't.
There are many atheist communities. The first person I remember on television speaking freely about atheism was Bill Maher, and this was something in the 1990s. Before that, atheists were completely isolated. This is before the explosion of the World Wide Web. So the fact that there's so many atheist communities, so much atheist content is something that's still fairly new and pretty amazing. It's a good thing.
It's this idea that I think a lot of us, maybe not a lot of people here, but for the most part, a lot of people who are atheists today started in some way religious, and we sort of felt like we were breaking away from a family or a community when we left that religious ideology. And so it's hurtful, I think, whenever your second family starts to turn on you, or you start fighting within your second family, and you're like, is this happening again because I dared to question something? And so the community, what you thought you had as a community, seems like a facade, I think.
Whether it's your first family or your second family, until you need something, you do not know who your friends and family really are.
And you're well known for your prolific content on the YouTubes about God and religion and criticism therein. And I've noticed a lot of your content's moved away from that in recent years. You've sort of branched out in your interests. And I was just wondering, are people getting bored of the God debate? Is the God debate dead? Do people want a little bit more from their political commentary now in these skeptic circles?
Yeah, I don't think the debate is dead, for sure. And I've actually brought it back quite a bit recently. I've been doing a lot more atheist content. I think I deviated from it for a little while, just because, like anything, if you talk about the same thing long enough, like personally, I didn't feel that I could add more than what I had at that point. And, I was frustrated with a lot of things. In particular with a lot of the infighting within the community. It was just sad to me to see all that happening, and I stepped away from it for a little bit, but I'm back now. I recently did a debate with Ray Comfort, which was interesting.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so, yeah.
He's my favorite satirist.
Nobody gives a shit about interviews with Ray Comfort these days. They really don't. And when you look at Jacqueline's YouTube page, clearly it's not atheist material. That's her popular videos or why she's so popular now. In fact, here's a video that got more hits than her Ray Comfort interview. Someone sent me a glitter bomb. So if digging up debunked, humiliated creationist fossils is what we mean about getting back to atheist topics, that's going to be pretty short-lived.
Vadim, do you feel that you're part of the atheist community? I mean, what does that expression mean to you in general?
I think that I sort of joined the atheist community, if you will, because I noticed that, like a lot of people, that there was just religiosity encroaching on our daily lives, our laws, and other aspects of our life in ways that it just hadn't previously. And I actually want to say that I think that right now, I think we're at a point where it's happening just as much as it was back then. As a matter of fact, I think it's happening I think the issue is more pressing now, and I feel like a certain portion, not everyone, but a certain portion of the atheist community is a little MIA on that.
These can't be atheist issues. If they are, we're going to lose because we don't have the numbers. When you talk about these separation church and state issues, such as the government forcing a national day of prayer, creationism in public schools, public funding for religious programs, religious privilege being disguised as religious freedom, we have to be part of religious people. We have to be part of Christians if we want anything done as far as preventing that legislation from happening. We have to get religious people to understand how it's not just something that affects atheists or not something that just atheists are championing, but something that affects them as well. When you look at separation of church and state, when you look at secularism, the origin of that in this country had nothing to do with atheism. It was protecting Christian sects from being persecuted from other Christian sects. When you look at the greatest speech on secularism ever made, it wasn't made by an atheist, it was made by John F. Kennedy. So once again, we can't make these atheist issues. These are freedom of expression issues. These are individual rights and liberties issues.
But I think what's happened with us being atheists, we've typically gone for the creationists. We've been anti-theist and taken down religious preachers. But what's happened with getting more political is it's kind of shone a light on how much we differ in our viewpoints. And I think that's created a lot of tribalism. Whereas I think previously we probably thought we were not susceptible to that kind of thing. And it seems rife to me that we're all kind of developing our own little tribes in that sense. And I was just wondering, how do you feel about political tribes within an atheist kind of sphere?
I've always been very turned off by it. I mean, it's not a new thing, by the way. I feel like people keep acting as though now, all of a sudden, because people are focusing more on social justice issues, that in and of itself is causing a rift that there wasn't before.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I've been talking about atheism on my channel for like 6 years, and whenever I first started, I had never been attacked as much by any group more than the atheists. Because, religious people obviously would get mad by what I would say. But I was attacked by a lot of people who called themselves part of an atheism plus movement. And this was something that was going on a long time ago. And their idea was that if you weren't a feminist, and a lot of them were very radical feminists, that you weren't being a good atheist. It was atheism plus all of these other social justice issues. And I was like very opposed to that, and I would make videos against that, and I was completely attacked and completely shut out from a lot of different things. Like I went to an American Atheist convention, and people were very rude to my face.
For 8 years, I've been a blogger for a blogging site associated with the Chicago Tribune, and there's a lot of topics, a lot of bloggers. I'm the atheist blogger, so I'm going to be the bad guy getting all the hate mail, right? Not even close. The people getting the hate, those are political writers. Those are people putting out articles based on politics. They're the ones getting all the hate. I'm hardly getting anything. I'm getting some hate. I'm getting some trolls, but nothing nearly as divisive with all the vitriol of politics.
For me, when I first started into it, it seemed very much about sort of what your other question was, which I sort of distracted from, which was we were sort of saying, even though our views aren't necessarily popular, we deserve a seat at the table. We were sort of petitioning sort of the American government to say, even though the Christian is the majority, we should be heard. Even though you don't like what we say, we should be able to say it. And so I find it really hypocritical of a lot of these individual splinter groups now of atheists trying to shut down other people they disagree with, especially other atheists. The divide that you're talking about. It seems that we sort of started off saying, even though we're not popular, let us talk, and now we're doing it to each other. We're silencing each other, and it's odd to me.
Vadim, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like to say that I think that this stuff goes both ways. There's certainly on both sides those who are shut down people's speech in different ways. I mean, I think typically a lot of people think in this audience that it's more sort of like the term, I don't really take this term very seriously, but like SJWs are the ones doing it. I think that it's happening on both sides in various ways.
Vadim appears to me to be tone deaf with that statement. oh, well, you have the right kind of shutting down speech in certain ways. That's not what completely decimated the atheist community. It wasn't anything on the right. It wasn't conservatives. It was people that we do now refer to as social justice warriors, extreme leftists, so upset when you disagree with them on an issue that they'll call you a name and throw you in the garbage forever. Doesn't matter the million of opinions you have on other issues. As soon as you say Caitlyn Jenner's not a hero or whatever, then they just throw you away, and you're a racist, you're alt-right, all these names they throw out no matter what. This is what's caused the destruction. This is what's imploded the atheist community. Atheists eating themselves because they have a certain group of extremists that can't handle any opposing argument, any opposing opinion. And this is what everybody's saying. And once again, just seems kind of tone deaf to me. Well, right kind of does this too in other ways. That's not what caused all these problems. It was not the right.
That liberal has, or rather, reality has a liberal bias. And I think that that's somewhat true, at least no more so than in the US political system. I think that we have, just no equivalent of things like Pizzagate, QAnon on the left. We don't have an equivalent of Sinclair News or Fox News or InfoWars on the left. If you look at, hey guys, I will totally debate you on this.
And you'll lose. MSNBC, CNN. Nobody here in the audience is like looking at this guy. What are you talking about?
You said that you think that, I don't want to be confrontational, but you said that you think that we should be more open to more right-wing people, but one of the things I've noticed, and I know that you've done this too,
Sure.
is you've used right-wing or conservative as a slang term, as slander term, and you've attributed that to people who it didn't belong to. And you've done that to me personally on Twitter several times.
Yeah, me too, actually.
Okay,
I've made it very clear that I identify as a centrist.
Can you quote that? I mean, I'd like
Well,
to know specifically
I didn't bring a list of your tweets.
What you're talking about.
I mean, do you see right-wing as synonymous with bad by default?
I think that when one votes right-wing, unfortunately, see, there are a lot of people here who consider themselves centrists who I think have an approach to politics that in an ideal sense is nice. It's almost like a buffet where you can pick and choose what things you like, but in terms of application, that doesn't actually work. If you vote Republican, you're going to get more anti-science policies. You're going to get more anti-education policies. You're going to get an embrace. Let me finish. You're going to get an embrace of things like trickle-down economics, which has a mountain of evidence that says it's total garbage.
We're getting off topic.
You get these things, folks, with voting that way. So, this is the last thing I'm going to say. Okay. Can you
We're dividing this atheist community with politics right now.
Right.
You should always do your evaluation and vote for who you think is the best candidate. You should never, ever just strictly vote along party lines. This is to say that there's no anti-science Democrats. You don't have Democrats who are religious nuts that want to bring creationism into public schools. This is really a ridiculous way of looking at politics. Just painting everyone. We only have two parties, and you're going to paint one side just with this broad brush saying every single one of them is like this. Nobody's trying to reform the party. Nobody's coming in that doesn't share views of other people. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Evaluate people and pick who you think is the best candidate.
All right. I'm fine with. Hey, I'm fine with dividing it as long, I'm speaking. I feel like I'm saying something true here.
But the whole point of this.
I have one more sentence
to bring
to
David
say.
in on this as well.
All right, fine. I wish I could say my last thing.
Well, you'll get a chance. We'll come back. Don't worry.
All right.
I think that's the whole point of this panel, is what the hell does that have to do with God not existing?
Exactly. Trickle down economics.
Because that's the point.
Because the thing is, all right. That's a fair question, and I'll answer it. Well, okay. Look, I think even though that you don't have to be a skeptic in order to be an atheist, I think that these things are somewhat connected, because, I mean, like, in my opinion, if you haven't arrived at your atheist standpoint through skeptical means, then it's not really worth that much. And skepticism at its heart is the pursuit of truth. And again, you get more anti-science policies, you get more anti-education policies with right-wing, when you vote Republican.
No, why do you get to be the police on how atheist someone is? If someone says I don't believe, why do you get to say that doesn't have any value?
Because the thing is here is, again, I am kind of lumping the things, both atheism and skepticism together. I think it's kind of important to discuss both of those things.
Atheism and skepticism are not the same things. I mean, you could definitely say on the issue of religion, somebody who's an atheist has a more rational, far more rational position. To be religious, to actually follow the Bible, to actually follow the Quran, if you've actually read it, is completely irrational. It's completely insane. Religious people that are actually aware of what's in their text and remain religious, they have abandoned reason for madness. But the thing is, despite that, outside of religion, they can be completely rational, competent, the most trustworthy people you'll ever come across on other issues. And then there's atheists, which, okay, on the religious subject, they have the more rational position. But then, oh my gosh, on other subjects, they're fucking nuts. Okay? I'm sure that there's many Antifa members that are atheists. I sure as hell don't share their opinions. I sure as hell don't align with them. So once again, being an atheist and being skeptic, being skeptical, being rational, those are two completely different things, because there's such a wide range of subjects outside of religion.
You put a lot of value on skepticism, right?
Yes.
In my opinion, if you truly value being a skeptic, you criticize or you analyze everything, every part of your value system, including politics.
Sure.
So my question, my issue with some of the things that you've been saying is it feels like you don't question any issues with the left.
That's absolutely untrue.
It is true, because
it's absolutely untrue.
Okay,
Go on.
We've had a bit of a disagreement before, because I made a video with my criticisms of the left.
Sure.
And I still consider myself very liberal. I don't think that's changed. But I see a lot of problems with the left, and as a skeptic, I'm vocal about those problems. And you have come out and flat out said not to say those things publicly because you fear it will sway more people to the right.
What are the key topics that separate skeptics from atheists that you've noticed? Things that you can touch on where you can realize, okay, well, this person doesn't believe in God, but they're not behaving rationally on other topics. What are some of the things that flag this up to you in your work?
Oh, this is one of them. This is a perfect example of, especially within an online community, if you will, of people saying things like, I'm a skeptic, I demand evidence for your claim. Unless that claim is about sexual assault, then there's no evidence required. Let's destroy this person's career.
So you're not in the camp of automatically believe accusers?
Not automatically, no. I think they should be taken seriously and looked into and investigated and not blown off, because that's important. But as Jacqueline was saying as well, I've said things before, consider myself liberal, but when I say the left is doing this, and I'm talking about Antifa or something ridiculous that's happening on the left, and
I'm not really for Antifa, guys.
But anytime I say something on my show and I say the left, right-wing gets thrown at me as an insult. And they're like, because you're using right-wing terminology
alt-right.
Or right-wing, alt-right buzzwords, then you're automatically Republican. And then all of this atheism, all of the work, all the charity stuff, all the separation of church and state, all the debates that I have on my show, all that's now out the window because someone has lumped me in with, you know, whatever conservative they're demonizing that week because I've used the same talking point that someone said on Fox News 3 days ago that I wasn't even aware of.
Question, and
I'll
anyway.
ask what exactly you think it means to defend the right, because you said that you resonated with it. Because I get accused of that all the time. I get accused of defending the right, but the only thing I'm doing is asking people to not make a caricature of them and to actually take them seriously and not be like, oh, everyone on the right is, you know, a redneck Bible thumper and they're all idiots. Like, I want to take them seriously.
I think to a certain extent, yes.
And
I don't think that
I don't think saying that is defending the right. I think it's just treating them like humans.
Well,
What are some right-wing views that you feel atheists are defending? In general?
well, it's sometimes it has to do with an embrace of certain people. Like, I mean, for instance,
guilt by association?
for instance, Jordan Peterson. This is a man who is both a climate denier. He was absolutely wrong about Bill C-16, the Canadian Bar Association issue.
He's a Christian. Well, he believes in God. He's a theist.
Yes, I understand that, but there is an embrace of people like this, of Ben Shapiro, of Steven Crowder, and I can't tell if you guys like love those dudes or if you're like, yeah, you're right about that.
No,
but,
they love those dudes.
I think that they're fans.
Well, hold on, let's check it.
But see,
Steven
the thing
Crowder.
All right, just science.
Yes, of course there's many atheists that support Jordan Peterson, Ben Shapiro, Steve Crowder. Now, of course they don't support them on their religious views, but they support the fact that they're pro-free speech, pro-individual rights and liberties. In the United States of America, it's great to be an atheist. It's great to be open about it. It's great to criticize religion. As we know, there's parts of the world where if you're an atheist blogger, you can get butchered in broad daylight. You can be killed. You can be imprisoned. And then you have blasphemy laws in Russia, parts of Europe adopting these blasphemy laws, adopting these so-called hate speech laws where politicians are now controlling speech. Free speech is precious. Individual rights and liberties are precious. When you look at Jordan Peterson, he'll debate Sam Harris. He'll debate anyone. And his positions, I think, on religion, when he talks about his metaphysical crap, he's just blowing smoke and rightly called out of coming up with an argument that could be used to defend anything. And if you can have an argument that can be used to defend anything, then that argument is worthless. So obviously there's disagreements. I created a video criticizing him on that, but he is an awesome champion for free speech, individual rights and liberties. Steven Crowder will make a statement. I believe in this, changed my mind. And then, hey, invite anybody to go up to him and argue with him. This is what we want. We want to debate. Let the best argument win. We are for free speech. And there seems to be I don't understand how Vadim doesn't seem to understand this. He's just not getting it. And he's not alone. I see a lot of atheists just kind of not getting why these people are popular. Well, they're definitely popular after you seeing a certain side just be completely intolerant, call names, shut people down, try to deplatform them. When you see that kind of behavior, or use violence to deplatform people, when you see that kind of behavior, and then you see this alternative of people that are all for free speech and debate, is it any wonder why they're getting popularity, especially in the atheist community? He talked about aligning atheism with skepticism. Well, how about aligning atheism with free speech? How is free speech not an incredible important issue for atheists, where once again, certain parts of the world, you're imprisoned, you're killed if people find out that you actually have the wits to recognize religious text as being nonsense. But then it ends shortly after this. There's a Q&A. I'll leave the link if you want to see the full debate. But awesome discussion. And I hope we get into kind of a wound healing type of area where we can kind of get back together and move on from all the vitriol that this extreme divide has caused. I don't know if that'll happen. I mean, the people just being intolerant and my way or the highway, and it's this way, and all these people are idiots. There's viewership, there's an audience there, so they're going to keep doing what they're doing. But the pro-free speech, anti-social justice warrior, anti-intolerant haters, you've seen the incredible movement, the incredible audience that they've been able to gather. So what are we going to see in the future? It's going to be interesting, but it does seem like your typical atheist topics, atheist just doesn't seem to be as controversial as it used to be. So saying I'm an atheist years ago, that would have gotten you a whole bunch of YouTube hits and attention. These days, it really doesn't do much, which is a good thing because we seem to be more integrated with society, where it's just not that big of a deal anymore. Attacking creationists, it's not nearly as popular these days as attacking flat earthers. So we'll see what happens in the future, but right now it just seems these topics that used to be really popular are kind of dead. We'll just see what happens. But hey, thanks for watching. This is Jim Wall. Until next time.
Cisco, do we have to leave all our good friends now? Only until next time, Pancho. Adios, amigos.